Hey everybody, welcome to another round of Drinking with Authors. Today we are talking with JD.Blackrose about her book, Demon Kissed. It's the first book of a new series. The series name is going to be called Summoner's Mark. And she's here to talk to us about this world and her character and writing in general. Hopefully we'll get to some writing advice at the end as well, like we usually do. Let's start off first though with what we're drinking.
So I'm not drinking alcohol today. I'm taking a tiny break from it, but I am drinking my most favorite water, the San Pellegrino water. It's Clementine Peach, and I can only get it in one store, like one Whole Foods. So I have to make a special trip to go. So yeah, I'm honoring you with my San Pellegrino Clementine Peach.
Well, it never has to be alcoholic for this show, but
I bet it would be a good mixer though.
Yeah, I'm sure that would be a good mixer.
I think it would probably be really good.
I'm assuming it's sparkling.
Yeah, it's got a little sparkle to it.
Sparkle to it. I'm drinking, I'm just calling it a birthday cake. It's basically a birthday shot, except I poured myself a little bit more than a shot. It's basically just Frangelico and vodka mixed together. So
sounds delicious.
Well, we'll see how, sober I am by the end of this interview.
This could be a really wild and wacky interview. So
I hope so. That's what we're here for.
Yeah, we're fun.
Why don't you introduce yourself and your past books and stuff like that, and then we'll move on into this particular book.
Sure. So I write as JD.Blackrose, and my blog is actually at slipperywords.com. So you can go and check me out there, and I'm JD.Blackrose on Facebook and Twitter. And the main thing here is I've been writing for publication. That's what I like to call it. Like really, I've always written, right? Like I wrote my first story when I was 7, but started writing for publication, meaning looking at it like a business, looking at it, seriously as a craft. It's been about 8 years, and had a lot to learn. And I wrote, I have some other books. They're published by Falstaff Books, The Soul Wars, The Devil's Been Busy, my Zombie Cosmetologist novella series. I have a new one coming out soon on that. I'm in the middle of the edits on the 4th one. And those have fun titles: Pluck and Cover, Hide and Chic, Cut and Dyed, and the last one is Pros and Cons. So they're all fun because it is a zombie and a cosmetologist. So I've been writing for a while and publishing short stories, things like that. But this is the first opportunity I've had to write for Bellbridge Books. And this is an urban fantasy / paranormal romance series. So it's great. It's great to finally be able to start getting it out there.
So I also did the same thing where I started writing, not 7th grade. I didn't start writing until 8th grade.
I was actually 7, like age 7.
7 years old.
Yeah, Jack the horse.
So yeah, it certainly wasn't that. I started writing in 8th grade, but like you, I didn't really get serious. I didn't sit down and ask myself, am I doing this for fun, or am I going to be serious about this until I hit college? So it's interesting that we kind of started out the same way, same frame of mind or whatever.
Yeah.
So you said this is the first book in a new series with a new publisher.
Yeah.
So sell us on Demon Kissed. Tell us all about Demon Kissed and why we need to buy it and read it. Sure,
absolutely. So the main character, her name is Rebecca Greenblatt. She goes by Bex. And a lot of urban fantasy is sort of has a Christian faith underlying to it, because we talk a lot about demons and things like that. And demons are very, like demons like Dante's Hell is more of a sort of Christian focused on. And so I really had to deal with that because my main character is Jewish. And so she has a mark on the inside of her left wrist that sort of denotes that she's a summoner born, and it looks like a kiss. It's sort of like got a little swoop on the top with a V in the bottom. And she can summon from any pantheon, any immortals from anywhere. And what matters is not her religion, but the client's religion, her client's faith. So that opened up a whole bunch of stuff for me because it allows her to summon demons. It allows her to summon from the Greek pantheon. It just opened up the world when I decided to do it that way. And so I've had a lot of fun with that because, it gives me so many ideas for the story. So in Demon Kiss, the first one of the three, Bex is given up summoning, which is, as you know, what she's literally been born to do, but she's given it up because a summoning went really bad and she had to go and rescue a client, and she wound up owing a demon a favor as a result. So when we first meet her in the beginning, she has given up summoning. She has no money coming in. She's totally broke. And she owes a demon a favor, and she doesn't know when he's going to call it in or what he's going to ask. And she also really doesn't know what he's going to do if she says no. So we meet her bartending. She's a terrible, terrible bartender. And I mean, just really bad. And she's bartending in a fae bar and is surrounded by dwarves who drink Chardonnay and really mean pixie it girls and elves, and her boss is half gnome, and she is bartending in this bar, and the story sort of starts there, where it becomes really clear that someone wants something of her in addition to the demon who's going to come and ask for a favor, and she doesn't want any of it to happen. So she's really grumpy and not happy, but eventually, of course, all of these strings are going to play out, and the sexy neighbor upstairs is going to come into play. And we have just this whole pantheon of characters that are just super fun, including my favorite character, Pinky, who is a 6-foot-tall fairy with pink wings. And he's absolutely my favorite character. And I don't want to say anything more because I think he'll be a lot of people's favorite character.
Yes, I haven't read the whole thing, but I've read enough of it to have run into Pinky, and I've read enough of it to realize that no, I wouldn't even trust Bex to mix my birthday cake drink here.
No, 2 ingredients is too much for her. Yeah, like she can get like a draft beer and pour Chardonnay, and that's it. Yeah, she's terrible at it, but she's really good at she's good at summoning. She's somewhat untrained, and that plays out in books 2 and books 3 for reasons. And really, we just sort of need, when you get started, you're going to be introduced to Beck's crazy world, and you're going to meet all of these characters, and you're going to just sort of need to follow along to find out what happens when that demon does come to call.
Yeah, and speaking of the world, because urban fantasy, I mean, you could say urban fantasy, but there's a pretty wide spectrum of what urban fantasy actually is.
Sure.
So for your urban fantasy, how would you say the quote unquote fantasy aspects are incorporated into the world? Are they out there, everybody knows about them, or are they all hidden? And
yeah, it's mostly hidden. Yeah, it's mostly hidden. It's a mostly hidden world, but it's a fairly big paranormal community, so they know each other. And Bex, being a human who's also a summoner, sort of straddles those two worlds. So she knows more, for example, than her sister does, who's really important to her story. So yeah, so it's a fairly hidden world, but within the paranormal world, everybody knows who each other is.
And how then because the parts I've read so far, you've got some human characters that have come to her for summonings and stuff, like you said.
Right.
Her past summoning was went bad horribly. So then if the world is so hidden, then how do humans know to come find her? I mean, obviously the supernatural knows where to find her, but
yeah. So when humans are really up against a wall, they'll go searching for answers wherever they can, and some find their way to her. She summons immortals on behalf of other people, right? So they're always an extremist, right? There's always a problem that needs to be solved, and they wouldn't be coming to her otherwise. And her job, honestly, is to make the summoning as even-footed as possible and less bad for the human, because humans are, by the time they get to her, they're miserable. There's something really terrible, and they want to summon a demon. They want to summon, an ancestor in the shape of a dragon. They want to summon somebody who is way, way, way more powerful than they are. And her job as a summoner is to be able to try to summon that immortal on their behalf, but make sure the contract that's drawn up isn't horribly unfair to the human. The problem is these immortals are immortal. They've been doing this for centuries, and they're really, really good at it. And they can find ways to, they find loopholes all the time.
And even from what I've read, it seems to me that also part of her job as a summoner is the reason people would want her to summon the demon is because part of her power is that it makes the summoning safer. Correct.
Yeah. So it's all about that. So she, as a summoner, if she summons a demon, we'll just go with that. The demon can't hurt her, right? Even if she's summoned without a circle. Sort of the rules of the game are that they can't hurt her. So she literally has an office set up in a what's the word I'm looking for? Where you store things, a storage facility, and she's divided the room into two halves. One half has a chair for the client to sit in, and the other half is her half. And there's, a partition between the two so that it keeps the client as safe as possible. And then she summons on her side. And by the rules of the game, they can't touch her. The problem is, doesn't mean they can't touch other people she cares about. So, she winds up in quite a bind because she does owe this demon a favor, and he winds up getting her over a barrel. But the whole idea is to try to make it as safe as possible for the client. But she spends a lot of time warning them, like, this isn't safe. You sign in blood. I'm going to do the best I can for you, but are you sure you want to do this? So she's the most reluctant summoner you could ever imagine. Like, she doesn't really want to do her job, but she sort of has to.
Is it people find out about her mostly through word of mouth? It's not like
yeah, she doesn't take out ads. Yeah, she's not doing the Harry Dresden ad in the newspaper. She's people know about her. If they need her, they'll find her, but most humans will never need her.
Yeah, well, hopefully they never need her.
Yeah, right. Because you're never summoning anyone without power. There's no reason for that.
Yeah. And you're right. She starts off the book pretty harried. I mean, because she's got the worry about the demon that she owes a favor to. She's got, from what I remember, the father of the client that she screwed up.
It's the brother. It's the older brother.
Yeah. The brother? Okay.
Yeah. His name is Gregory.
Yeah, and then she's got some clearly evil force that she hasn't identified, that seems to be after her, and then now she is, obviously that's like some supernatural power kind of thing that's after her. But then she's got, just your everyday kind of thugs after her in black cars and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, she's got a lot going on, and she doesn't want, like, all she wants to do is like do the easiest type of summoning and make enough money and just sort of like be able to go visit her sister and her niece. And it just is never going to work out, right? Like, this from the beginning. It's just not going to ever be like that, because there are a bunch of paranormal folks who, want to get their claws into her, sometimes literally. And and her job summoning puts her sister and her niece and her brother-in-law, who doesn't like her, in danger. So
Yeah, you pretty much know that from the first chapter that
you know it from the opening scene. I mean, you can tell that Mickey, her sister, is going to play a big motivation for her.
Yeah, well, I mean that it at bare minimum, the sister and niece is somebody that she wants to protect at least.
Correct. Exactly.
But yes, the sister is involved enough in the very first chapter that you get that hint that she's probably going to be involved in the overarching plot as well.
Yeah, she's important. She's an important person because that is who Bex wants to protect. Exactly.
Yeah. So okay, so you've got a whole series out with Falstaff, multiple series out, it sounds like, with Falstaff, and then you've got this series with Bella Books. So is there a significant difference between the series that you were doing for Falstaff and then this series? Like, is this series more heavily romance involved? Because there's certainly a heavy romance element to the writing, because you got that hot neighbor upstairs who I'd like to meet.
I do. We love him. Yeah, so I would say that, so the way, I'll tell you the story of how this actually even happened. I was at a conference, and Deborah Dixon at Bellbridge Books sat next to me at a panel, and we were both on the panel, and we were both early. And she had read some of the stuff I've written for Falstaff, or at least was familiar with it. And a lot of the stuff I've written for Falstaff, my Monster Hunter Mom series, which is The Devil's Been Busy, or Zombie Cosmetologist, has a lot of humor in it, and sort of light and funny. And she said to me, I really like your voice, but I'd like you to write something grittier and with a little less humor, like, just sort of take it to the other side a little bit. So that was really important. That was really important that I it's not that there's no humor in it, but that I made sure I stayed on the grittier side. And also I did add a pretty, strong thread of romance to this. So I think I think people who like urban fantasy, Faith Hunter blurbed it. And I think if you like Faith, and you like Patricia Briggs, and you like Alana Andrews, and you like, those kind of things, you like those books, I think you'll really like this. And if you, like paranormal romance, you'll like it. I feel like I just need people to find it and read it and give it a try, because I am new for them. And I think it's really easy to not find newer authors. You and I talked about this a little bit before we started recording. I think it's tricky as a reader today to find newer authors that you can glom onto and really like. Yeah,
I think just talking in terms of the people that tend to follow me, and they're not really following me, they're following the small press Zombies Need Brains, and like for readers of Zombies Need Brains anthologies and stuff, this reminds me quite a bit of like Jeannie Cook's stories and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Like she does the Alien Kitty Cat series books,
right?
So and it's not Alien Kitty Cats for the people that don't know the series.
There are no Alien Kitty Cats.
His nickname is Kitty Cat, and she has to deal with aliens. Obviously, there's no aliens in your book, but it felt to me kind of had the same kind of flavor. So I think viewers and readers of Jeannie Cook's might find this interesting. So hopefully a bunch of them will check it out.
I hope people will. I mean, the Fever series, who's the author whose name is escaping me right now. When I went looking at, it's the Fae series, the Fae Fever series. I'll remember as soon as we finish. When I went looking at covers, I found, those covers looked a lot like my books. And I thought, oh, okay, like maybe people who read these books will, Karen Marie Moaning, when they see, if they like her stuff, when they see these covers, maybe they'll be drawn to it because they did look really similar, at least her older covers. Yeah, like I said, yeah, I do think there's an audience out there for it, and I hope people will find it, and I hope people will like it. That's obviously, you don't, as a writer, you spend months and months and months and months and months writing, 3 books, and you just wait to hear what people have to say. So it takes you have to be really patient.
Yes, as a writer.
As a writer, yeah, you have to be really patient.
You have to be very, very patient. Yes, before you get any kind of feedback about your.
Especially because we are doing like a more rapid release, so the 3 books are going to come out right after each other, and I think that's helpful today because people are used to binging, yeah. And I know people get really anxious about like getting into a series and then not getting the next book, but that won't happen with this one because all 3 will be done.
Speaking of which, I forgot to ask this earlier on. When is this book coming out?
February 28th.
February 28th. Okay.
Yep. February 28th. So
this video should be posted either right before the release date or just after the release date. So so people should run out and grab the book right now and check it out. What about 2 and book 3?
Yeah, so I don't know exactly when they'll come out, but they will come out quickly afterward. The second book is actually getting ready for page proofs. So, it's really done. And the 3rd book went to my editor last week. So yeah, again, I think people should feel confident that if they get into the series, that they're not going to be left hanging, right? You'll be able to read books 2 and 3. And yeah, they're all up on, the regular places, Amazon, Barnes & Noble, IndieBound, Kobo. So, it's print and ebook now, no audio yet, but it should be very easy to get your hands on.
Okay, well, if you haven't already, go check it out right now. But I want to shift this a little bit away from the books themselves to just writing in general.
Sure.
Which everybody knows I'm a pantser. So my first question is, how do you write? Would you plot everything out? How do you handle the whole writing process?
So it's such a good question because I was a committed pantser for a long time. And then I realized if I wanted to write 3 books in a row and have them make sense, and I had to do it under, in a certain timeline, I'd better learn the joys of plotting. So I found it took me a while to develop a system, but it's loosely based on beats, on like the Save the Cat beat sheets. And some people love that and some people don't, but I have found that really helpful to me. When I first got started really writing, people would say, you have to outline. And I'd be like, how? What does that even mean? Like the only outline I knew was, Roman numeral 1, 1, small a, small b. Like that's the only, I was like, I'm not going to outline like that. I can't outline a book like that. So when I finally read Save the Cat, and I know some people I have a love relationship, but some people have a hate relationship, but it works for me. When I finally read Save the Cat and learned about story beats, it was like my eyes just opened and I went, oh, this is what they mean. Okay, I can do this. I can have an opening, scene. I can have a climactic moment. I can have, the full despair when it's, all is lost beat. I can have all these beats and I know what that means now. And I can like map out what that story is. And so that really helped me. And then I found something else. It's another book that it's called, I think, the Blueprint, writing a book blueprint, maybe, that talks about the inside outline, which is basically assigning motivation. I'm simplifying it, but assigning motivation to every scene. Like, what has to happen here, like who's trying to get what and why are they doing it and what does it mean, and applying that also helps me. And so I went from being like a total pantser to being a really detailed outliner. And if you had told me that, like 5 years ago, I would have looked at you like you were crazy, but I really need it.
Well, I mean, everybody has to find what method works best for them. I mean, I tried an outline, and it just, my problem with the outline is that when I'm done doing the outline, it feels like I've written the book, and then I have no interest in the book anymore.
I know lots of people say that. So that's why I find beats helpful, because you're not outlining everything. There's a lot of discovery still involved. It's just, okay, these are the major moments in the book. And also I tend to write short. I don't understand people who say, oh, I have to cut 20,000 words. I'm like, 20,000 words? That's like a novella by now. What are you talking about? I have to cut 5,000 words. I write short. I write really brief. And, the thought of writing, like, so the novella, the series that I've done for Falstaff, all of them are novellas that together create a book. And the reason I did it that way is I could not imagine writing 100,000 words. Asking me what 100,000 words look like was like asking me to envision what $1 million looks like in $1 bills on a table, right? I had no idea. How big is that? Does it fill the room? I don't know. So it just was something I could not figure out, but I had done NaNoWriMo and I knew I could write 50,000 words in a month. So I was like, okay, a novella is 30 to 40. I can do that. So for The Devil's Been Busy and for the Soul Wars, and then also for Zombie Cosmetologist, for all three things that I've really done for Falstaff, what I did is I wrote 4 novellas. So I took 120,000 words and I just divided it up. I wrote 30,000 words 4 times. And that's what I did. It was the only way I could get a handle on writing that many words. Like, it just made no sense to me. And I have lots of friends who write 100,000 words, no problem. That's the length of every book. And I just struggle with it. So yeah, these books are all about 85,000 words. They're on the slightly shorter side. But yeah, so I need the outlining to make sure I include everything, because usually when my editor goes back and reads my book, she'll be like, could you give us more here? Like more set dressing, like where are they?
Yeah.
Just all these details. I'm like, what do you mean? I know where they are. So
I write long, but not long in the sense of that I have to go back and cut 20,000 words. It's just like a standard chapter for me is like 20, 25 pages long. It's just, I think chapter wise, at least, I think big. I mean, a lot has to happen in a chapter. So like your book, I think, has like 31 chapters in it or something.
Yeah, I don't know, something like that.
Yeah, and I'm like, that book for me would be like 200,000 words,
Right. Yeah, no, I can't do that. That's insane. Yeah.
I mean, it's just different writing styles. People are mentally write in different ways. Like if I try to do a really, really short chapter, it just feels unfinished to me. It feels like there's not enough there.
But what are you putting in there? Like, there's a point, get to it, move on. This is what I struggle with. So that's why I always have to have an editor. All my editors tell me that I have like book in head, not on page syndrome. Like, I know what the scene looks like to a T, right? It's all in my head, but I haven't somehow communicated that, because on the page. So,
well, my friend and co-editor Patricia Bray, she does outlines and all that kind of stuff, but she has kind of the same issue, is that a lot of times we're saying, like when we're critiquing her stuff and whatnot, we're saying, as far as we're concerned, they're just fighting in a gray room. I mean, there's nothing.
Right. I get told that all the time. It's a naked stage, dress it. Or, can you just give us more of their emotion here or whatever? Like action tags so we know who's speaking, things like that. And it's good. I mean, it's good. You have to have all of that stuff. So somebody has to read your stuff and tell you, what's missing, or if you're writing long, what can go.
Yeah, what can be. That's what editors are for.
That's exactly why they exist.
Yeah, editors are there to tell you how to make it better. That's
Thank goodness. Thank goodness.
Essentially what they're there for. And I mean, even like Kate Elliott, I talked to Kate Elliott, and she said that a lot of times her writing, she tends to write the dialogue, and then her editor doesn't have to say this, but she knows that when she does her revision, when she goes back through a second pass, she knows she's got to work in like descriptions of the setting and all that kind of stuff. When her first draft doesn't have all of that. She's
right.
Focused on the dialogue and the action and what's happening between the characters. And she does the setting and all that kind of stuff later. I mean, I can't even imagine doing that. But I write slow enough that, I'm just a slow writer, and things get worked in because I'm thinking about things. Wow.
Yeah, I think speed does have something to do with it, because when I start to write a scene and I see the scene in my head, I have to get it out, right? It's like, it just needs to get out. So the rest of the stuff can come in later. Yeah. But with these 3 books, part of the reason for really learning the joys of outlining is because I was on deadline. When you're writing something and you don't know what exactly it's going to look like, and you don't know what's going to come of it, you don't really have a publication plan for it. If you take a while to write it, you take a while to write it. Who cares? In this case, I had people who had dates.
Yeah.
That were agreed upon. Yeah. So, we needed to hurry that up.
And I think writers need to realize that, the dates, the deadlines aren't thrown at you by the publisher. In general, it's when you sign the contract, the dates are in there. So if you don't like those dates, you got to argue with them.
Right.
There's no way I can do that in 6 months or 3 months or whatever. You got to say, I need 8 or something like that.
Right.
They are agreed upon dates. I'm glad
they are. And sometimes there's a little wiggle room, even when you set them down, like these are, aspirational. But if you're plus or minus 2 weeks, it's okay. But, but basically you need to get, if you want to be, this sort of gets to what we were talking about earlier about being a writer who looks at it as a business, like, who looks at this like this is professional. You have to be professional about it, which means that, when something's due, you get it done, or you contact them early and say, I'm going to need an extra whatever, and this is why. Or you interact with your editors very professionally. And I mean, it's a job. So do the job. And hopefully in the end, if you do the job well and the books are successful, you'll get another job. Yes. That's right. That's what we all want. So.
Yeah, being I've been on the writer side of it with DAW Books, but I've also been on the editor side of it with running my small press, Zombies Need Brains. And so, it's
very successful small press. I have never seen anthologies with such competition to be in them as yours.
Yeah, we've certainly gotten to the point where, we're getting like 1,000 submissions and we're accepting 5, it's
incredible.
Insane. But yeah, being on the other side of the desk, it's like really emphasized to me, that this is a business and you need to approach it very professionally. Because of course, on the editor side, I'm seeing the whole spectrum.
Sure.
Completely not professional to
right.
Professional. So if you want to be a writer and you want to be serious about it, then yes, you need to approach it very, very professionally.
And get comfortable with all the components of it. Yes. Writing is 99.9999999% rejection. So, you know, and we hold out for that 0.00000001 moment. And so, you know, you're going to have rejection. You're going to have people who say they don't like your writing. You're going to have bad reviews. You're going to have relationships with some editors that are great and some that aren't. I mean, it's just the way it is. It's just, this is like you said, I mean, it's a job, it's a business. So get used to that fast.
Yeah. And it doesn't change. Once you've been published, like I've been, you know, I don't even know. I have 9 books out and I have a bunch of short stories out and whatnot. But I would say in the last 3 years, I've written, you know, maybe 5 to 10 short stories just for kicks and sent them out, you know, to the magazines and everything, and all rejections.
Oh, for sure.
My name means nothing.
No, I mean, I have a rejection spreadsheet. I have a, you know, a spreadsheet. Yeah. And I always tell people, like, I should show you my spreadsheet because I cut my teeth on short stories. Yep. So, because I do write shorts, so short stories are good for me. But I highlight the acceptances in yellow and I highlight the rejections in blue. And because I can't handle red, it's just too violent. So it's just too upsetting. So you look at this spreadsheet and it's a sea of blue. Oh, just a sea, line after line after line after line of blue. And then there are some that are white with red letters. That means I never even heard from them.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. You didn't even get the courtesy of, sorry, no. You know? You know.
Yeah.
So, you know, they say things like, because there are some places out there, the big ones will say, like, if you haven't heard from us in 90 days, just assume the answer is no.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So,
Zombies doesn't agree with that. I try to send rejections out as soon as we know, but you know, it is the internet and things bounce and things, you know,
sure,
lost and all that kind of stuff. So, but I try to send out a notice.
Yeah, usually something, even a little form letter, is better than just not knowing because you're like hanging on, like, because sometimes, I mean, and you know this really well, sometimes not hearing right away is a good thing.
Is a good thing, yeah.
So without that rejection, you don't know what's going on. So you just have to make an assumption after a while, like, this is dead.
This is dead. Yeah. But you never know. It could be sitting on some editor's desk waiting for, you know, a final decision. And that's the issue with it. Zombies only has 2 letters. We have the letter that says, yay, we want it. And we have the letter that says, no, we're passing. I don't do, this is one of the things I hated when I was sending stuff out originally, is I don't do those, you know, tiered letters where, you know, this letter or this letter, and let's do, you know, rejectomancy on this and figure out what they're really trying to say.
Right. Yeah.
Yes or no.
But there are, you know, levels of rejection. I mean, you know, the first short stories I sent out, I mean, the rejection came back like it was like on a boomerang, right? Whoop, right there, inbox. Oh, yeah. You know, and you know right away, well, someone read the first paragraph of this and hated it, and that was that. And then I remember getting a rejection from Fantasy and Science Fiction magazine from Charlie Finlay when he was the editor, that had like editorial notes, like real ones. And I was like, this is the best rejection.
Oh yeah.
Oh my God. Like this is gold. And I actually met him at, you know, when I met him at a conference, I went over to him and introduced myself and said, you send me the best rejections. And he said the nicest thing at the time. And by the way, I've never been published in F and SF, but he said the nicest thing at the time. He said, you know, Joelle, when I do that, it's because I see something in the writing. And I mean, for me, that was hugely complimentary.
Yeah.
So,
yep. Yeah.
You know.
And, I mean, I did the same thing because I've submitted to CC Finley when he was the editor, his magazine, and I got the, you know, editorial note kind of rejection. And I would love to do that be able to do that for like Zombies Need Brains, but
You can't when you get 600, you know.
Exactly. I mean, we got 850 submissions just to the apocalyptic anthology, and it's like, it took me this year, for the 3 new ones that we did this year, it took me 4 or 5 days to send out all of the rejections, and that was a form letter.
But why do you do 3 at a time?
Well, we didn't start that way. The plan was I was going to do 1 anthology for a while, and then I was going to go to 2 for a little while, and then I was going to go to 3, and so I did 1 for 2 years. But we were successful. So
right, very.
Yeah, and so the 3rd year I was like, okay, let's try 2 and see what happens. And so we did 2 for the 3rd year, and then that was successful. You know, and so the 3rd year I planned on only doing 2 the 3rd year, but I got approached with a really, really good theme. And I said, well, I still want to do the other 2. So I ended up doing 3 the 4th year, and we've been 3 ever since.
It just seems like so much. Like you could spread it out like a little bit. Yeah.
Well, part of I would spread them out and, you know, do like 1 every 4 months kind of thing. Except that I don't like to run a new Kickstarter until I've sent out everything for the previous Kickstarter.
Oh, I understand. Yeah, that makes sense.
So because I backed Kickstarters where, you know, they've run a 2nd and a 3rd, and I'm like, I don't even have the
book from the first one, right?
Yeah, why am I going to back your 2nd and your 3rd if I don't even have the first one? I mean, at this point I could probably do it because I've delivered on all of the Kickstarters and whatnot.
Yeah.
Up to this point, but yeah, that's just the pattern it's set into right at the moment.
I think the funniest thing that I ever heard said about one of your Kickstarters, it's a huge compliment to you, but I don't remember which one it was, honestly, but I'm going to say monsters. It had to do with monsters, right? And someone said after your rejections went out, they said, well, I guess all the other magazines are going to get a lot of monster stories. Right? Because there have been 1,000 people that have written a monster story, and 995 of them got rejections. So everybody else is going to be inundated with monster stories.
This is why, like, Clark's World has on their submissions page a thing saying, you know, don't submit immediately after you've been rejected to a themed anthology right away. They say, you know, wait 6 months, wait 8 months.
Right, exactly. Yeah. I just thought it was so funny. I thought it was so funny because it was like so true, you know, so hilarious. So,
but at the same time, a lot of times we're rejecting a story not because it's not good. We're rejecting a story because it didn't fit our theme, our idea of that theme.
Right.
So in some sense, you know, sending that story out isn't necessarily a bad idea because we didn't think it fit our theme.
Right.
But you're right. If it's a monster theme or something like that, then
you're gonna get
all of the other magazines are screwed because.
Do you guys ever like fight over who the 5 or 6 that are going to be let in? I mean, do you ever really like disagree or?
Yes, we usually agree on, like, really solidly agree on 3 or 4.
Mm-hmm.
And then after those top 3 or 4, it's like we do a rating system of like 0 to 5. 0 just means it's like not even close to theme. 5 is the best. And you know, so usually after the first 3 or 4, it's, you know, one editor gave it a 5 and the other gave it a 3. And it's like 3 means, you know, there's a solid story here, it didn't wow. 5 means like I've been bowled over. And we have very, very few 5s in the long run.
Yeah.
You know, and so after the first 3 or 4, it's usually a story that one of the editors really, really fought for, and the other one was kind of like ho hum about. And vice versa. Usually we end up saying, we argue about the stories for a bit first, and then we say, then since I'm the founder, I'll say, you pick.
Since I make the rules.
Exactly. I'll say, okay, you pick what story you want, and then I'll pick a story that I want, and that's how we end up filling out however many more we need for that, kind of going back and forth. Sometimes you can convince the co-editor that the reason you gave it a lower score is because you really didn't think it was on theme. It's not bad writing. It's usually how close is this really to our theme. And also you can argue how does it fit with all of the other stories we already agree to accept, because you don't want that one story that kind of sticks out like a sore thumb. You're doing an anthology, so all the stories kind of have to work together with each other too. So that comes into play. But yeah, I mean, we do usually end up arguing about some of the stories before we make all the final decisions.
That's interesting. I remember when I was reading Slush for a publication, like the thing I found as I would get into a story, I'm just wondering if you experienced this too. And the biggest problem I found over and over and over again was that the story didn't end. It stopped, but it didn't end. Yeah. I'm wondering, do you find that too?
That we find that the probably more common is we find the story that's just an idea and it hasn't developed into a story. So it's kind of the same thing, because you're reading and you're like, okay, this is a really good idea. Where's the story? Where's the story? And then it just kind of ends.
It just stops. Yeah.
Yeah. And you're like, okay, that was a really cool idea because I read it all the way to the end.
Right.
But there was no development into what I consider anyway a full-fledged story.
Yeah, I mean, I've had the privilege of reading Slush for 2 different publications now for various things that they were doing. And I so many times, like if I'm giving feedback, I'll be like, you have a good idea, but the story didn't really come to fruition and it just stopped. It didn't really end. And I hope people know what I mean by that. I don't have time to like write out like a whole thing for everybody, but yeah, I know it's really hard, but I'm so scared of your anthologies. I only submitted once.
You should. No, if you have an idea, if you have a really cool idea, and write it up and send it in. I mean, that's the thing I don't get, is that you just got to write it up and send it in. The worst thing that's going to happen is they say no, but you still got a story.
True.
I mean, it's not like, we burn the story and you can never use it again.
A match to it. That's the end.
Yeah, that's the end of the road for this. It's you've still got a story. You've just got one no. And you said, if you're going to be a serious writer,
no, you have to do it.
You're going to get that spreadsheet full of blue. I mean, it's just going to happen. No matter how many books you've sold.
Both stories that I sold last year, I haven't written any short stories this year, but both stories that I sold last year had been rejected by other places.
Oh yeah.
Multiple times. So, and then for both of them, I saw submission calls where I knew immediately that the story was perfect. And, I sent them in and they got accepted. So sometimes it's just a matter of finding the right place.
Yeah, and like I said even earlier, is a no doesn't even mean that it's a bad story. A no just means it didn't fit with the other stories, or it was just slightly off of what we were really shooting for the theme. What we thought the theme was in our head. And so I mean, we reject tons of really good stories, like well-written stories and stuff. So it's just part of the business. Send it out.
It is. You don't know.
Get it back. You never know what's gonna hit. It's spaghetti on the wall thing. You got to just throw everything at the wall and hope something sticks.
See what sticks. Exactly.
Okay, let's remind everybody what we started talking about at the beginning here. So this is a JD Blackrose, and she has a new book out called Demon Kissed. It's the first book in a new series. She promises the book 2 and book 3 of the series will be out soon. And why don't you tell us like where we can find the book, and also where we can find you, like your blog and your other books and all that kind of stuff.
Absolutely. So again, it's Demon Kissed, and you can find it, you know, most places, online though, not in bookstores. Don't go looking there, but go to IndieBound, go to Amazon, go to Barnes and Noble, go to Kobo, you know, wherever it is, and you'll be able to get it. It's up for pre-order now. If you want to follow me, there are a couple ways to do it. SlipperyWords.com is my blog. I write about other books, other people's books. I do book reviews, I do author interviews. I talk about my own stuff. You can subscribe to my newsletter there if you want. I do not spam you. And you can follow me on, I'm very careful. You can follow me on Facebook and Twitter. And I'm trying the Twitch thing, but Facebook and Twitter are definitely where you can find me for sure. So that would be, and it's all under JD Blackrose.
Okay, so JD Blackrose, and again, this is urban fantasy, sort of paranormal romance mixed in as well. I mean, I got that even with the portion that I've read, that the romance element is definitely there. So if you like urban fantasy and paranormal romance, definitely check out Demon Kissed. So Demon Kissed, JD Blackrose. Let's go order it right now. Okay. I want to thank you for being here today and chatting with us about the book and writing and everything. And I hope it was fun.
Yeah, it was great. And thanks for giving me insights into the whole Zombies Need Brain, like anthology, like the making of. Yeah. That was fun. That was fun. I feel like I pumped you for information, and we got a little, you know, information out there for other people.
Yeah, you certainly turned the interview around. Toward the end, ended up being you interviewing me, but that's good. That's fine. Again, everybody, go buy the book, and thank you for being here. And stay tuned for the next Drinking with Authors segment. Okay, everybody.
Thanks a lot.
Bye.
Bye.